Hello, welcome again. I'm Tyler Woods. I'm reading my book, Days of Ragnarok, End of the Gods, and we're on page 29. This is the second installment. Dawn breaks with Intrepid under full sail and heading further out to sea. We avoid the inside passage in preference for safer open water. I keep the AIS transponder turned off. It is doubtful we'll see any cargo ships for a while, and I prefer that no one be signaled of our presence. Intrepid's radar is seldom turned on, and only then for a sweep or two. Coastal seas are rough right now, and the sky is gray and low. Gentle rains pass over us from time to time, but the sun isn't coming out. Anna comes up to the helm and hands me a cup of coffee. Sitting here as the sun rises to only brighten the clouds, Anna speaks softly. How do you think your parents are doing? Anna is very close to Mom and Dad, but especially close to my mom. I answer, I'm sure they're at camp and have probably brought others with them from work. One thing Mom and Dad took seriously was having an exit plan. Dad was the motivation behind all the preparedness conferences at OSI. A lot of people thought they were about surviving in third world countries, but Dad knew our infrastructure was fragile enough to sink America to third world status overnight. I'm sure Mom and Dad are okay. Anna replies, I'm sure they are, but I feel better after we hear from them. I guess we knew this would happen someday, but I'm expecting to wake up from this bad dream I'm having. It's hard to believe how fast everything fell apart. I know the feeling, I answer. We're lucky to have some distance out here, but I can't imagine what's going on in the cities right now. Camp is our best hope to ride this out. She asks, how long do you think it will last? When will it end? I take a moment to answer because it's not a happy thought. Everything unravels quickly. Within 4 to 10 days, violence peaks, and the people do unimaginable things to stay alive. Many will fall to bad water and spoiled food. It's worsened because hospitals won't have room. After the first 30 days, most urban dwellers will be gone. They will have left early or died. Some will have stored food, but not enough. They will make it longer, mostly in the suburbs or rural areas. Few have prepared well enough to last, but some communities will hold out. Small agricultural towns won't do too bad. 90 days is a milestone. Those who make it that far have a chance as long as they stay away from hot zones. Hot zones, she asks. What are they? Hot zones are any former concentration of people, like urban areas. The system will be overwhelmed, and between bodies that aren't buried and sewage backups, the risk of disease will escalate in those areas. Even groundwater will be polluted. Next are the spent fuel rod pools around nuclear power plants. With no electric power to run the pumps, the pools heat up and begin to boil off. Once the rods are exposed, they spread radiation to the air, and anything within 200 miles downwind will be affected. I have a map of the locations and prevailing winds for most of the Southwest. After that, we need to watch our water source to avoid typhus, cholera, and typhoid. In all, we're looking at major isolation for about 3 months and general isolation for the next few years. Even then, the world is going to look like a ghost town. Anna's eyes are full. Why didn't people listen? We knew this was coming. The warnings were all there. I put my arm around Anna. I don't know. Probably the same reason people don't wear their seatbelts. They think it will never happen to them. It's always someone else's problem. Scott comes up from the cabin after Anna clears the narrow ladder. Seas are kind of rough today. Scott's voice doesn't conceal his nervousness very well, and he doesn't have his sea legs under him yet. His focus is on keeping a breakfast of pilot crackers down. A bit, but they can get much worse. Intrepid is a strong boat, and she can handle a lot. Once we get further out to sea, it might calm down. I don't feel this is the time to tell Scott that this stretch of water is known as the ship graveyard. Frequent storms rise fast, and available protected ports are off the many rivers that deposit sandbars at the ocean's mouth. Those sandbars create terrible waves and shallow entries. Plenty of boats have been lost trying to navigate those in good weather. Bad weather makes them almost impossible to cross, and a compromised boat doesn't have much of a chance. For now, we have steady wind, and it's blowing the right direction. We're making good time. Scott is easy to read. We have worked as a team on many projects, but our friendship is more than professional. We think alike and have been through a lot together. After our narrow escape from North Africa in 2010, Scott became as much a brother as he is a friend. Both of us like to hunt, and we've made frequent trips to our family property near Big Bend, Texas. We just call it camp. Until then, Scott had no idea that elk ranged so far south. Right now, Big Bend is where all three of us would rather be. Even still, a boat on the open water is as close to your own country as it gets. We have our own water, food, shelter, and can go where we choose. Eventually, however, every boat has to make port, and when we do, there's no telling what we'll find. 2 days out, Intrepid turns due south. We are approximately 175 miles off the coast of British Columbia and still have a good wind. Scott is beginning to be more comfortable with Intrepid's steady roll, and the seas have settled down some. The sun even comes out occasionally. Anna pops up from the cabin. Dinner, anyone? I think I could eat a horse. Got any horse down there? Scott has been eating pilot crackers the last 2 days. Now he's hungry. I set the auto helm and join them for beef stew and dinner rolls. The rolls are a treat as fresh bread doesn't last long, and it's a long way between stores when you're at sea. Ah, you're a good cook, Anna. Scott is only half joking. When you're on the boat, heating up canned stew is about as gourmet as it gets. Get me to a proper kitchen and I'll fix you something good, Anna replies. Actually, I mean it. I know this is just canned stew, but somehow it tastes better out here. Scott isn't just trying to get out of trouble. I begin to say, but don't finish. Everything tastes better at sea. Must be the fresh air. Or the hunger, quips Anna. She leans over and looks her brother closely in the eye. You haven't eaten anything but crackers for 2 days. I bet dog food would taste good by now. We're all laughing, and it is a real good laugh. The laughter is better than what caused it, and in this case, stress and the huge wad of social change that catches us has had to digest. Let me back up. We're all laughing, and it's a real good laugh. The laughter is better than what caused it in this case. Stress and the huge wad of social change that each of us has had to digest over the past few days make this laughter special. It's therapeutic, and it has been a long time coming. Alone on the open ocean, we feel safe for now. As the humor wears down, Anna voices a question that addresses no one in particular. It is clear that at least part of her thinking is parked on what has happened. I've read that an EMP will stop everything electronic, cars, watches, radio. But Scotty's boat engine ran, our radios work, and everything works on Intrepid except what demands on signals from satellites. How is that? I answer first. The atmosphere protected us from most of the EMP, and what did get through only damaged equipment connected to long wires like wire antennas and power lines. Newer equipment has some EMP protection built in. The only EMP that can do what you have heard is a military-grade gamma device, and even it can only shut down electronics for about 15 to 20 miles. I guess it doesn't matter much in the long run, Scott adds. With the grid down, we can't refine oil or get it distributed to vehicles that could run otherwise. Even if we could, what would we use to buy it? Welcome to a whole new world. I guess we're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Anna's comment is funny, but no one laughs just the same. Anna's eyes begin to well up, and a tear rolls down her cheek. I reach over and take her hand. With a squeeze, I ask, "What are you thinking about?" Anna looks up and says, "Everything. I'm frightened. What of our friends, our house, the horses? Will there be anything to go back to?" I move around the table and sit next to Anna and hold her close. "I'm not sure. It's not in our hands. Maybe some of our friends made it to the ranch and can make use of what we stored. In any event, we've done the best we could to nudge people toward preparedness. I just never thought it would come like this. I don't think anyone could have seen this coming, but we all knew it would come someday. If it helps any, I don't feel too courageous right now either." The three of us just sit and poke at our dinner, not saying much, but thinking about friends, family, and that our lives have been turned upside down so quickly. Sailing is busy and enjoyable when the sails are full and you're making good headway. But when you have to wait for wind, it helps to have some books and a board game or two. Off the coast of Southern Oregon, we reach that place. Scott tries fishing, but we're too far off the coast for that. Anna and I are suddenly awakened in the forward V-berth by a thunderous splash that shakes the boat. I scramble aft to the cockpit. Anna pops up through the hatch over our berth to see what's going on. Scott is already on deck and has seen the whole thing. "Jason, did you see that? It was amazing." I'm reassured that Scott doesn't seem too upset at what has broken a really good sleep. "See what?" "I'm just coming up the ladder from below deck. Anna's head and shoulders are through the forward hatch. I saw the water churning, but nothing else. What was it?" Just then, a gray whale breaches about 100 feet off the starboard. With everyone's mouth gaping, a single word proceeds from all of us: "Whoa!" Anna is most surprised. "What are they doing here? The grays don't migrate for another 2 months at least." Scott has the answer. "There's a group of about 40 or so whales that stay here and don't migrate, but I've only read about it and never seen one this close. That was awesome. I didn't know they came this far out." Then, as an afterthought, Anna asked, "Did anyone get any pictures of that?" Pictures, I say. We've been missing a lot of pictures. Why don't we think about the camera until it's too late? Well, at least you have the logbook that can paint a picture in words, I guess. Scott has a positive way of looking at things. Anna has the same trait, and it's one of the many things I love her for. The whale never comes back, and that's about the only activity on the water today. Anna and I have a lot of combined sailing experience, and we're both baffled at how calmly we took the whale incident. Whales have rammed sailboats before, and something that large could have easily sunk Intrepid. Thankfully, the wind picks up, and before long, Intrepid is under sail again. California is east, but you can't see land from where we are. Daytime temperatures are getting warmer, but Anna's sunny spot on the bow is vacant. Her heart is too full of thoughts for her friends and family. Nurses tend to move around. School friends can be anywhere, and it seems that no matter where a medical conference is, Anna knows someone at the host city. These thoughts trouble her now because cities are hardest hit by these circumstances. Electric power is the lifeblood of a city. And just like blood flow in a patient, you can't let it stop for long. Some of her friends work in city hospitals but live out of town. Country living is a good diversion from the rush of urban life, and many bought into the need for alternatives to the corner grocery store. A preparedness mindset comes naturally to country people. It's the city dwellers that take so much for granted. Stopping by a local store to bring home dinner can be a deadly practice when both the store and your pantry go empty. We're keeping a wide berth rounding the southern tip of the Baja Peninsula. Its official name is the Free and Sovereign State of Baja California Sur. But most call it Baja Sur. It is the 31st sovereign state of Mexico and boasts an impressive large presence of American expatriates. For economic reasons and the beautiful tropical weather, many U.S. citizens choose to live down here. I turn on the AIS transponder again. We're going to be visible from shore radar anyway, and attempting to sneak in might get us confused with smugglers. This is Mexico, and they play by different rules down here. There is also a real threat of piracy. Even during normal times, pleasure sailors have run into trouble in these southern waters, especially now with so much unrest. A boat like Intrepid would make an attractive prize. Scott is on the cabin deck, keeping watch with binoculars. His attention locks onto something to our starboard. Jason, I think I need my brown pants. What's up, Scott? Anna notices the serious tone in my voice. We have visitors coming fast in 2 boats, non-military. I think we have trouble. Scott's voice has the same serious tone, and now Anna is listening to every word from below deck. 2 boats are approaching at full throttle and traveling together. Each appears to be carrying at least 4 men, but it isn't obvious if they are armed. A sailboat has no chance of outrunning a powerboat, so we need a different plan. I open the port sail locker and move a catch to release a side panel, exposing a long gun with collapsible stock. How's this instead of brown pants? I hand Scott what looks like an AR-15, but it's bigger. It's an FN SCAR-17 in 308 NATO. Much mo better. Where did this come from? Scott is pleased to have some respectable firepower, but he's not looking forward to the possibility of using it on people. There isn't much time, so Scott begins setting up his firing position. Your dad never left things half done. You can't call the police in international waters. I have a little extra punch down here, too. Scott looks over his shoulder to see me with an M79 grenade launcher modified with a folding stock. Good golly, Miss Molly, Dad did have some toys, didn't he? How come you knew about this stuff and Dad never told me? Scott sounds more confused than upset. Had you ever taken the boat out, I'm sure he would have told you. It's not like this stuff makes for good dinner conversation. Without another word, we turn our attention to the 2 boats. Don't shoot unless we have to. Open up if you see weapons, but not until. We may discourage their plans before things have to get ugly. Suddenly, both boats turn away from each other and head back the way they came. Jason, are you seeing this? Why did they bail like that? They couldn't have seen we were armed. Not yet. They weren't that close. Anna sticks her head out of the hatch to the cabin and points aft. I bet that's your answer. Behind us in the distance, a boat is coming very quickly. Only a military fast boat moves this fast in these waters, and it is coming straight for Intrepid. We don't have much time before it'll be on us. Scott, hand me the rifle. We don't want to upset the locals with these. Scott hands me the 308, keeping it low, and I pack both it and the grenade launcher back into the sail locker and behind the cover panel. With the spare sail put back, nothing looks out of place. A call in Spanish comes over the Marine VHF hailing channel for us to stop and prepare for boarding. Anna responds as she speaks pretty good Spanish, while Scott and I drop the sails. The tone of the reply from the Mexican military speaks volumes for the advantage of speaking the native language, but Anna's soft voice couldn't have hurt either. The Armada de Mexico patrol boat is impressive. It is very fast and just less than 50 feet at the waterline. As we help place fenders and tie up, an officer comes aboard with 2 armed soldiers. 2 additional soldiers with submachine guns remain on their boat, but directly above us. The officer is courteous but leaves no doubt to his authority. We are in his jurisdiction. There is nothing we can do. If they have seen the weapons or find them in a search of the boat, we could be spending a long time in a Mexican prison. The rest of our lives depend on the decency of the officer in charge. May I see your passports and vessel registration? We're pleased by his nearly accent-free English, and I think he's a bit proud of his command of it. Anticipating his request, we each have our passports ready, including my Canadian version and Intrepid's registration. The officer's commands are no nonsense. Are there any others on board besides yourselves? I answer, no, we 3 are all. The officer continues, I must ask you to remain here while my men search for contraband. Anna comes up to the cockpit as two soldiers begin searching every compartment, including the engine and bilge. They're very thorough. If they find our guns, we're done. Anna sits on the sail locker as the officer reviews our sail log. Eye contact and the smiles she makes with the two soldiers are flirtatious and something I don't like. But this is no time to start a conflict. One of the soldiers asks Anna to rise as he opens the sail locker. He pulls the extra sails aside and then closes the hatch and smiles back at Anna as he stands next to her. Anna returns his smile and sits back on the sail locker. After a lengthy review, the officer returns our log and gives a command in Spanish to the armed soldiers who return to their boat awaiting his return. Anna later tells us he told the men that we were not of concern, and they could go back to their boat. Intrepid has a fair-sized cockpit, but four of us on deck make it cramped. Our relief has to be obvious, but the commander doesn't react to it. May I offer you some tea? Anna asks. Thank you for your hospitality, but I must decline. The officer's demeanor is definitely softening to Anna's charm. I am Lieutenant Commander Antonio Garza. I assume it was your feminine voice we heard speaking Spanish on the radio. Anna replies with her best pixie little smile, Sí, mi nombre es Ana Connors, which brings a generous smile to the officer's face and another wave of relief to each of us. When I heard your very correct Spanish with such an accent, I was sure you were either American or Canadian. We don't speak such good Spanish in Mexico. With that, everyone courteously laughs at his humor. I'm Jason Connors, and this is Scott Iverson. We are pleased to meet you. As everyone shakes hands, the conversation flows more smoothly. When you first appeared on our radar, your identification beacon was not functioning. However, we began to register you as you entered our waters. That was appropriate on your part. We have seen some smuggling and even piracy these past weeks. Just the same, we must investigate every incoming vessel. Since you are Canadian with a Canadian registered vessel, you're welcome to visit our country, but please use good caution. I hope to get some news. We've been at sea for nearly 2 months with only one stop for supplies in Alaska. Can you tell us what has happened? When we left Hawaii, everything was fine. Lieutenant Commander Garza's voice becomes a bit somber. It is very bad. Failure of the US dollar has created chaos for all sides. As people became more desperate, violence began at the border crossings, forcing them to close. It is strange today that it is the Americans who are sneaking across the border into Mexico and not the other way around. I still feel sorry for these people. They are hungry and only seeking someplace to live, but we have no resource for so many. When the Mexican military enforced the borders, shooting started, and for a time it was very dangerous. It's better now with no more shooting, but our government had to restrict entry by Americans. This is why we must inspect your papers. A few weeks after trouble began, all communication and even the internet became silent. Nothing works, not even cell phones. Now some phones work, but reception is not good. All electricity power from the States is also off. We only have a few generation plants working. It was thought to be retaliation from the Americans because the border closed, but our engineers said we were experiencing some trouble also. We heard later that it was from an atom bomb which was detonated in space. 2 were launched, one from the East Coast and one from the West Coast, both from offshore. Have there been any updates from the States? I try not to sound overwhelmingly concerned, but I'm hungry for news concerning my family. We have heard nothing since the electric went out. I would not go there. It is probably not safe. Thank you again for your hospitality, but I must go. I wish you a safe journey. Scott hasn't said a word yet, but as he shakes Commander Garza's hand, he says, "Thank you for your kindness and assistance. We're grateful for your presence and protection as we visit your good country." With that, Anna and I shake his hand and say our goodbyes. We untie and waste no time getting Intrepid under sail. As the Mexican boat speeds away, Anna sinks down and sits where she is. I didn't think we were going to make it through that, and I don't know which scared me more, The pirates or the Mexican court system? None of us are laughing, not even a smile. I don't even question Anna's flirting with the soldiers. She did it for a good reason, and it worked. Scott keeps a good eye from the cabin deck while I man the helm. Anna is spending extra time in the galley, fixing a better than normal dinner. I figure it is her way to spool off tension from the encounter with the Mexican military. The galley doesn't rock as much in the Gulf Coast waters, and she can finally use it for more than heating something. Intrepid's galley features a propane stove and oven. Many sailboats use alcohol stoves for safety concerns, but LP sensors, leak detectors, and burner ignition has come a long way. The bottom line is that Intrepid has a better than expected oven, and Anna is putting it to use. Dinner will be special tonight. Anna has many talents, and one of them is instinctive cooking. She holds command of food and seasoning. She never needs a cookbook and seldom requires measurements. Ingredients are added by handful, palmful, and pinch. She can make a cardboard box taste good. The smell of Anna's cooking is fantastic and driving us crazy on the deck and cockpit. Dinner! Anna doesn't have to say it twice. I'm down the steps first because I already have the snaffle lines connected to the helm. Scott is right behind me. At the table are 3 plate settings, but no food. Anna sits smiling as she begins to explain. Before we start dinner, there's a matter that must be addressed. Both Scott and I are bewildered as Anna continues, looking directly at me. When Scott saw the pirates coming, he asked you to hand him his brown pants. You understood what he meant, and there will be no dinner served until I get the full explanation for the obvious boy code between you two. Scott howls. We've been played, Jason. I've seen this before. I start laughing to tears and surrender, saying, and she's won. We give up. I will tell you the joke as my hard-earned dinner is held hostage. Scott continues laughing as I explain. There was a valiant French sea captain who led a ship of buccaneers. When they prepared for battle against a British ship, the brave captain would say, prepare for battle and bring me my red shirt. One day he was asked the significance of his red shirt, to which he replied, if I am injured in fighting, my men will not see my wound and fight bravely. The next day, the lookout shouted, Captain, I see 6 British ship of the line, and they bear down on us, and we are alone against them. The brave captain then said, prepare for battle and bring me my brown pants. Scott and I roll with laughter as though this was the first time we have ever heard the joke. Anna's response is different. She just rolls her eyes and says, that's it? Just a silly joke? You men! And with that, we all enjoy a fabulous dinner. This is probably the first good meal we've felt like eating since we left Sitka. Scott and I keep laughing at the joke, while Anna occasionally interjects, it's not that funny. Jim and Rita Sanders. This is the chapter called Loretto. Jim and Rita Sanders are close family friends, and Jim is the designated pilot for the company plane, which is shared between our various oil businesses. It looks impressive when we step off the corporate jet, but it is practical too. Most of the places we have to go are not located next to commercial airports. When there's a problem requiring vital freight getting to a site that FedEx doesn't even know exists, the corporation's Pilatus PC-24 can land on unimproved runways as short as 2,700 feet and has a range of over 2,200 miles. Add the dedicated side cargo hatch to the cargo bay, and you have an ideal oil-filled corporate jet. Rita chose Pegasus as its name, and everyone thought it was great, so it became official. Jim and Rita have a condo in Houston, but their home is in Laredo, Baja Sur. Separate from Mexico by the Gulf of California, the only way to get there without crossing into the U.S. is by air or boat. A lot of U.S. expatriates have moved to the Baja, but property ownership is reserved for Mexican citizens. That's where Rita comes in. Rita is Spanish descent, Mexican-born, and carries dual citizenship. The property is in her name, and Jim calls himself her hired hand. The lower cost of keeping the plane here makes it convenient as a base of air operations for Jim and the company. Our visit with the Armada de Mexico was 2 days ago, and Carmen Island is coming to port. So I called Jim on the hailing channel. Pegasus, 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 this is Intrepid. Pegasus, 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 Intrepid calling. There is no response. Then Scott remembers. Try channel 9. 16 is monitored by everyone, and Jim doesn't like to hail on that one. I switched to the marine radio from channel 16 to 9. Pegasus, 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 this is Intrepid. Do you copy? After a brief delay comes an answer. Loud and clear, Intrepid. Is that you, Jason? Glad you made it in one piece. What's your location? Jim's voice is welcomed, as it means our long cruise is about to end. We're approaching Carmen. Where should we meet you? I am unmistakably energized. Come right into the marina. I have arranged a temporary slip for Intrepid. I'll be waiting for you. Pegasus out. Jim is short on words when it comes to marine radio. That seems strange to me because Rita says he regularly stays up all night talking on ham radio. The marina is west of the southern tip of Carmen Island. It's naturally protected and has very good security. Anna loves sitting on the bow deck to read, but not even a good book can divert her thoughts from how strange our world has become. She makes her way back to the helm after hearing Jim on the radio. It will be great to see Jim and Rita again. I can hardly believe it has been 2 months since we left Hawaii. Anna speaks matter-of-factly and may have been more celebratory for ending such a great cruise, but in her heart of hearts, she senses a foreboding that perhaps our adventure is just beginning. Jim is at the end of the floating marina dock and directs me to the slip. After helping with lines and fenders, he comes aboard. You must have had an easy passage. The boat looks good, but you all look like you could use a rest. Welcome to Mexico. Jim shakes both our hands, but gives Anna a hug as he tells her in a loud whisper and a wink, don't tell Jason, or don't let Jason know that I'm your second flame. Jason, the marina is keyed entry with good security. Just grab your day bags and come to the house to freshen up. Rita has dinner ready, and we can catch up. A day bag carries a change of clothes and whatever a boater needs to use a marina guest facility for shower, shave, and general cleanup. It is a refreshing change from the cramped head on a sailboat. After 55 days on Intrepid, leaving her with a bag in hand feels strange, but not as strange as learning to walk again on solid ground. Jim and Rita's home is truly beautiful, a Tuscan style with openness that makes you feel cool and refreshed even on hot days. Rita is waiting for us in a white blouse and colorful ankle-length skirt that reveals she is wearing no shoes. Her style is simple but elegant, and it explains her character perfectly. Rita is what you might call a calm under fire. Nothing seems to rattle her. Even now, with the world in tatters, she's preparing a gracious meal and entertaining friends as though nothing is amiss. Rita's greeting says everything. Welcome. I'm so glad you could come. Sit down and relax, but first I need a hug. Rita takes Anna's hands in hers, looks into her eyes with a smile, and asks, and has that old man been flirting with you again? Giving Rita a hug, Anna responds, would you expect anything else? Rita gives Jason and Scott a hug and offers them a seat. Sit. I have some tea. She doesn't have to ask if we want any. Rita's tea is to die for. It really isn't only tea. The pitcher is full of sliced kiwi, peaches, and cherries, with a strong dark tea poured over and left to blend flavors. I call it heaven's nectar. Jim sits in his favorite chair, plainly marked by his guitar in easy reach. An accomplished musician, Jim can sit and play from his heart without printed music. Rita says printed music is for musicians who play from their head, but not from their heart. In any case, listening to Jim play is soothing and makes this hacienda a relaxing home. Anna, and Rita disappear to the kitchen for talk and to share their love of cooking, as first Scott and then I take showers, shave, and get cleaned up. Rita is what some call a deep soul. She can read your heart simply by looking into your eyes, but she never pries and never has to. Your cruise must have been wonderful. You two are so busy. It must have been a good change. Oh, Rita, it was. At least the first leg. For a whole month, it was just the two of us with no interruptions. I didn't want it to end. Well, besides a few rain squalls that broke up the routine, even the weather left us alone for the most time. The trip from Sitka was full of questions, and we couldn't wait to get here. Rita stops and takes Anna's hands, as she often does when she's going to say something especially important. Right now, things are very bad in the States, but everything is in control, and we are well. We must tend to what we can and let God take care of everything. Dinner is exquisite as usual, and everyone helps wash and put away the dishes. There is a real peace in the house. In work or at rest, no matter the task, everyone enjoys each other's company. There is much to talk about with Jim, but for today, it's time to recoup. Everything on the veranda, or evening on the veranda with Anna in my arms, we sit in the overstuffed wicker recliner, and Anna comments, "You know, I've always liked the Baja and really loved Jim and Rita, but this visit is different. I feel a bit guilty that we are comfortable while people we know may be hurting. It's unsettling." Scott has just stepped out to see the stars and comments, "Unsettling? You mean because our money is trash, the government is hiding, and cities are in flames? You feel something amiss?" Scott's attempt at humor would have been funny if it were not so real. With the cruise complete, our minds are free to realize how drastically the world has changed in a few short weeks. Each of us has been successful in business, with full schedules that reach at least 5 years out. Now those plans can be tossed. It is certain that appointments will be kept, but what those will be and who they will involve is unknown. What we assumed our future to be must have been written on an Etch-a-Sketch, and something or someone has given it a good shake. I think we'll stop there and pick up again tomorrow. How's it going so far? Leave me comments and tell me whether these are long enough, too long, or too short. God bless. I'm enjoying this with you.